On February 11, 2011, Governor Scott Walker introduced a state budget repair bill, also known as Act 10, to address the budget deficit in the state of Wisconsin.
We have both an economic and fiscal crisis in the state.
Walker's plan would strip nearly all collective bargaining rights from teachers, as well as many state and local employees.
This is an unprecedented extreme attack on basic worker rights, the likes of which we have never seen.
Although exempt from the bill, most police, firefighters, and state troopers stood in solidarity with the protesters.
We've said we'll pay for our pensions. We've said that we'll pay for our health insurance. But we will not give up our rights.
It's a scam. It's a farce.
In protest against Governor Walker's budget repair bill, widespread demonstrations at the state capitol lasted for months. This created immediate LGBT concerns for protection of partnership benefits and workers' rights.
I went to Madison to protest Governor Walker's attack on union workers. I'm married to a union worker. I come from a union household and found his attack on working families just unconscionable.
It really did feel like public employees were demonized through this process. I've been a state employee for over 10 years, and I've never felt the way I did since this has happened.
Historically, Wisconsin has been a progressive state with deep labor union roots. In 1959, it was the first state to extend collective bargaining rights to the public sector and is the birthplace of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees.
Collective bargaining rights are rights that we bargain for as unions for all of our members collectively. And collective bargaining started actually in the state of Wisconsin.
Often taking the lead for their lesbian and gay members, public sector unions negotiated domestic partner benefits into contracts when elected officials were too timid to act.
The unions often took the lead in terms of ensuring access to equal benefits for LGBT people. In the city of Milwaukee, when we were working to establish domestic partner benefits for city employees, it was the city union that really championed working with the union members, working with the city of Milwaukee, working with the mayor to ensure the availability of domestic partner benefits for city employees.
But under Act 10, unions would no longer be able to negotiate for domestic partnership benefits.
A government that's willing to take away the rights of any of its citizens is a government that's willing to take away the rights of anyone else. And we felt it was very important that we stand up against Governor Walker and his attempts to strip collective bargaining rights from workers.
Our rights for our workers are not guaranteed by collective bargaining. They're guaranteed by something that passed more than a century ago, and that is the civil service system in the state that's the strongest in the country.
On February 17, 2011, just 6 days after Governor Walker introduced the budget repair bill, the state Senate was set to vote on the anti-union measure. In an effort to stop the vote from passing so quickly, 14 Democratic senators fled the state to prevent the quorum necessary for a vote on the bill.
We saw the writing on the wall. We saw how fast they were trying to move this with a hearing, and we wanted to make sure that people had more time. That meant that we had to not be in the chambers, so we knew that we'd have to go, and we knew that we'd have to go out of state.
All of the Democrats from the state Senate got on the same bus and have left the state.
The Wisconsin 14 stayed in hiding for 3 weeks in Illinois, giving the public more time to examine the budget repair bill. This motivated tens of thousands of people to march on the Capitol in protest.
I have the benefit of having domestic partnership benefits because of a union. So I wanted to stand up for my wife. I want to live in a place where everyone's respected, and unions give that opportunity.
We decided, oh, we got to do this. We got to be a part of this.
We made it a day trip with River and Violet. Violet was 3 months old at the time, so we just bundled her up, brought her along.
In a lot of ways, really surreal to see how people came together and responded to the budget repair bill in terms of protests in Madison.
After failed attempts to persuade the 14 Democrats to return, including withholding their paychecks, Senate Republicans decided to separate the collective bargaining measure from the budget repair bill and vote on it immediately.
This proposal would not trigger the special quorum requirement.
Chairman,
This is a violation of law. This is not just a rule, it is the law. There must be, no, Mr. Chairman, this is a violation of the open meetings law.
And on March 10th, 2011, the Wisconsin Assembly passed a collective bargaining measure without the required 24-hour public notice, as Assembly Democrats shouted, "Shame."
Because they rolled the vote in the Assembly so quickly that a lot of legislators weren't in their seat. 28 legislators didn't ever get a chance to even vote on Act 10. I never got to cast my vote for my district on one of the most controversial pieces of legislation that I'll probably ever see in my lifetime. And so that's why it was very difficult to, in that instant, lose my right to vote, essentially. I will never forget it.
Walker signed his budget repair bill, known as Act 10, into law on March 11th, 2011.
You don't have to have massive tax increases on the middle class, and you don't have to have massive layoffs to balance a budget.
In response to the passage of Act 10, over 30,000 volunteers collected nearly 1 million signatures to trigger a recall election against Governor Walker and 6 Republican state senators.
The biggest issue for us as a couple, where we're both public employees, is that it was so much, so suddenly. All of a sudden, our pay went down by, $300-400 a month. It really impacted us because, it was at the most difficult time financially for us because we had 2 very small kids in daycare. And it almost made more sense for Lori not to work. At one point, her paycheck was actually less than our monthly daycare bill.
With the new changes that are coming out because of Act 10 next year, I'm expecting to pay another $400 a month in pension and health care benefits, and I'm terrified. I'm going to be working 80, 90 hours a week to bring home less than $30,000 a year.
Tina Owens co-founded the Alliance School in 2005. It was the first school in the nation that started with the mission of addressing bullying and providing a safe environment for all students. Alliance has made national headlines for being a model school for acceptance of LGBT students. Under Act 10, teachers are among those hardest hit, with their salaries expected to be slashed.
We are a Milwaukee public school and part of the union. The political situation in the past couple of years, it's been terrible. The budget cuts have been devastating. First, we had to give up our yellow bus transportation, and our students had to start riding the city bus. It's so hard for our kids. It makes them targets out there. On top of that, we, as teachers in the school, are facing really harsh cuts to our own salaries and benefits. I don't know. I hope that there's a way that I can keep doing what I do. I hope that something will change.
After months of grassroots efforts to recall Governor Scott Walker, Wisconsinites went to the polls on June 5th, 2012. In the most expensive recall election in American history, Scott Walker defeated Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett. Walker's campaign outraised Barrett by $31 million to $4 million, with significant money from out-of-state billionaires.
Tonight we tell Wisconsin, we tell our country, and we tell people all across the globe that voters really do want leaders who stand up and make the tough decisions.
Governor Walker stripped away the collective bargaining rights because that was his covenant to people who supported him. Governor Walker's party outspent everyone else 8-1. And in politics, if you have money, the rule of thumb is you generally win the election.
Private union membership has dwindled for the last 30 years. Public union membership had remained strong, and so I think they saw that as their biggest threat to just having political power. So Walker going after collective bargaining rights and saying it was a budget issue, I mean, it was a farce. It had nothing to do with the budget, and if you're looking for proof of that, exactly a year after he pushed the budget repair bill, the state of Wisconsin had a bigger deficit, mind you, caused by him and his policies.
As Scott Walker's victory reverberated across the nation, LGBT groups in Wisconsin contemplated what it meant for their community.
I think the fact that he was reelected is a physical blow to a lot of people, particularly and including LGBT people.
This was about undermining the entire progressive movement in Wisconsin because labor unions have long been the cornerstone of the work that all of our organizations, whether it's LGBT or the environment or choice or workers' rights, have really been based on and funded by.
My biggest fear is that now the LGBT community is going to have this bullseye on our back. Right now, Democrats are lucky enough to have control of the state Senate. And if we lose that control in the fall, it wouldn't be far-fetched to see a law introduced that would repeal the domestic partnership. We could really be in a lot of trouble with losing our registry.
Although Wisconsin has a constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage, the state passed a domestic partnership registry in 2009. Governor Walker has stated that the registry is unconstitutional and has directed the state not to defend the law.
It's incredibly disappointing and frustrating that Governor Walker does not believe that the critical protections that the domestic partnership registry provides to same-sex couples is worth defending. You know, these are protections like hospital visitation and family medical leave.
The domestic partner registry was really a first step both in the city of Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin toward encouraging equal access to benefits for same-sex couples.
We were able to pass a domestic partnership law, and we were the first state that had a constitutional amendment that went and did something positive after that. So we have about 43 of the rights and responsibilities that are afforded to marriage, but there's 211 in Wisconsin, so we've got a long ways to go.
State Assemblyman Mark Pocan is running this fall to represent Wisconsin in the U.S. Congress.
This is my 19th year in government, so I've been on local government, I've been in state government, and I think it's real important to have a seat at the table where you can really help make decisions happen. They always say if you're not at the table, you're probably what's being served.
The LGBT community is hopeful that out politicians like Pocan and Tammy Baldwin, who is running for U.S. Senate, will make a difference.
I think Tammy Baldwin and Mark Pocan's campaigns for federal office are absolutely critical in Wisconsin and for the LGBT community. Wisconsin's state motto is forward. Although we lost the election, that's only a part of the long battle. The movement is going to continue, and that one election is not going to define our state, and it's not going to define our people, and we're going to continue moving our state forward.
In a post-Act 10 world where the collective bargaining rights of public workers were taken away here in Wisconsin, it's a very scary thing. What LGBT workers need to do now is continue to be advocates for themselves and for their families.
One of the hopes that I have is that as we do move forward, there needs to be more progressive leadership in our state.
It's changing people's hearts and minds. With the kids, with the teachers, just come and spend a couple of days with us. Because it's not what you're seeing on the news.
In the LGBT community, there is this belief that we don't want to leave our cities, we don't want to leave the state. Instead, we want this to be an environment that makes us feel welcome and that future generations will celebrate a greater level of equality than what we have experienced.